It's a sad day here at Mack CL. This is the end of an era for the red CL. The rears are more desirable to somebody else, so I got rid of them. But first I have to cut them off. The truck is getting smaller and smaller. But I do have that nice frame that all of the parts and pieces that I'm saving on it are going onto. So I call this a win. Don't know when I'm going to find the time to do all this. I'm excited for this build. So check out this video along with all my others and keep watching. And of course, like and subscribe, even if you hate the video. How dare I cut up a perfectly good CL with a junk frame? I'm okay with the criticism. It's okay. I'm a big boy. I can take it. So the nice part about all this is it still could be in the storage state, being that the lift axle is still going to be there. So I'm just chopping it off right here, disconnecting the U-joint, remove the tires and rims, and away this rear end goes. I just do not care for Hendrickson suspension, especially in a Mack. It just doesn't make sense to me. You got a nice camelback setup, worked for practically half a century, if not more. Yeah, more than half a century. So I found this handy little hook and chain that I dropped the drive shaft. I'm going to wrap it around and saddle it in place so it's not dragging all over the place when I move this truck around. I just wished I thought of that brilliant idea before I dropped that heavy ass drive shaft on the ground. But regardless, I'll still get it and hook it up. Going fishing with a drive shaft. So anyway, I got all this hooked up, so now I can release the hook, and now it's fastened in place. Got to give the frame a whack, bang out some of this rust so it's not blowing back at me on the torch, and some trickiness. So I'm going to air up the truck and drop this lift axle. So when I go to cut this, nothing is going to fall down and be in harm's way. I have the front axle blocked off on the other side. It's going to be pretty neat. I've never been able to do this before because I never had a lift axle to use for my advantage. So this shouldn't take long. have this final cut right here to do, and I have the air down on the bags, but you're reliant on the weight of the box and the rears and what have you as to what the airbag is regulated inside the cab. Now I could just turn the air down on the regulator itself, but that just doesn't seem fun. So I'm curious, what's going to happen when I cut that little stretch? Well, it didn't do that much destruction after all, like I thought. I didn't know if this would jump up 6 inches from the pressure of the bags. As you can see, it just bumped up maybe an inch. Even the shock of releasing the frame didn't even do much. I guess it wasn't as exciting as I had envisioned. Tires are coming off next. I'll get my big forklift and lift this up, get the tires off, and on to the next project, I guess. I'll put this off to the side when I get a chance to tear off some more stuff and transfer the motor over onto that frame. Obviously I'm not using the 18 speed because that's junk. For those of you CL lovers, I'm sorry I had to do it to this truck, but a lot of CLs have been cut up already, and I'm using all the parts minus the rear, but I'm using all the parts to make one really good one. This is always fun. Clean wheel, clean wedges amounts to a huge explosion when you loosen up the nuts. So let's see how bad it really is. Are we ready? Not as bad as I thought, but just a quick tip, don't ever take the wedges. Quick tip, don't ever take the nuts off without breaking the wedges loose first. This wheel looks a little bit more inviting for a bigger explosion. Oh yeah. Another episode of This Wheel is Stuck Again. You have, where's the valve stem? Where is it? Anybody see it? I don't see it. Aha, there it is, caught in the middle of this web. I already have the rear ends cut, so I can't release the brakes on the truck, but I do have the brakes caged. When the brakes are released, hit it with a hammer, the hub will spin, and you'll be able to get that tire off. And there you go. Valve stem is in the middle where it's supposed to be. probably wondering, what on earth is this? Well, I'll tell you. This I bought at auction, not for this purpose. I just dreamed of what to do with it because I didn't want to cut it up. It had some 275, actually 4 of them. You can see the little nubbies still welded on top. I got to cut them off for some type of a fuel stand that the fuel needed to be up that high. So what this is perfect for is I take that rear end cut off that I just had, and I take my big forklift, put it up on top of this top here to drain the oil, and I put my buckets down here to catch the oil. Meanwhile, I'm not getting crushed or relying on a hydraulic forklift holding this up the whole time, or have some type of a failure and it comes down. This acts like a big jack stand basically for draining rear ends. So check it out. So anyway, I can leave the forks under it. This is just for quick dumping the oil out. Obviously I got to trim off that 2 or 3 foot section so I can get close to it. I looked at this for a while and I could not decide what to do with it, and finally it just dawned on me that this is probably a better idea. Never mind, it's a lot safer. So while the oil is draining in this bucket here, you can see that it's doing a plub plub. So obviously the vent is plugged, but here is what was in the plug. I would call this normal wear or minimal on the magnet. And maybe one of you viewers are probably thinking, if you sold the rear ends, why are you draining the oil? Well, think about it in my perspective. If I was looking to buy a rear end, I would want to know what's in it. So at least I can be honest and say, hey, I drained the oil and this is what I had found. Or if there's absolute complete junk, a coffee cup load of oil and shavings come out, then I guess that's not going to be for sale to anybody but the scrapper. That's the way I look at it. I try to be as honest as I can with everybody. And it's got to drain that rear. And that's a wrap for this one. Anybody ever seen such a short, squatted CL? All you squatter people and squatter haters, I wanted to build one of my own.